The full moon hung heavy over the pack grounds, casting silver light across the assembled wolves. Freya Eiriksdottir stood at the center of the ceremonial circle, her flame-red hair unbound and wild against her bare shoulders. The traditional mating dress clung to her curves, white silk that seemed to glow in the moonlight. She could feel every eye on her, could sense the anticipation thrumming through the crowd. Tonight was supposed to be perfect. Tonight, Alpha Brand Ulfgarsson would claim her as his Luna. Instead, he stood before her with a face carved from stone. Brand Ulfgarsson, Alpha of the Northern Pack, his voice carried across the silent gathering, deep and commanding. Freya's heart hammered as she waited for the sacred words. But his jaw clenched, and something dark flickered in his storm-gray eyes. "Reject you, Freya Eiriksdottir, as my fated mate." The words hit her like a physical blow. Gasps rippled through the crowd. "You are wolfless," Brand continued, though his hands trembled at his sides. "Powerless. Inadequate to stand as Luna beside me." Freya's breath caught. The mate bond, that golden thread she'd felt humming between them since her 18th birthday 3 days ago, suddenly pulled taut, then began to fray. Hi friends, if you're hooked in and ready to enjoy this story, please click subscribe and let me know in the comments where you're watching from, because tomorrow I'll be giving you another story as interesting as this one so you don't miss it. Alrighty, now let's keep going. Pain lanced through her chest as the connection started to tear. She lifted her chin, refusing to let them see her break. "And I, Freya Eiriksdottir, accept your rejection, Alpha." The formal words sealed it. The bond didn't break cleanly. It couldn't, not with fated mates, but it twisted into something agonizing, a constant ache that would never fully heal. Brand's expression flickered for just a moment. Was that regret? Before his mask of cold authority slammed back into place. Without another word, he turned and strode from the circle, his bald head gleaming in the moonlight as he disappeared into the darkness. The crowd erupted in whispers. Freya stood frozen, humiliation burning through her veins hotter than the pain. Olaf Hearthgar, the beta, stepped forward with sympathy in his eyes, but she shook her head sharply. She didn't need pity. She needed to leave. Freya ran through the forest, her silk dress tearing on branches as tears finally spilled down her cheeks. The bond throbbed with each heartbeat, a reminder of what she'd lost, of what she'd never truly had. She didn't stop until she reached the old stone crypt at the edge of Pack territory, an ancient structure half buried in moss and vines, long abandoned by everyone but her. This had been her sanctuary since childhood, when the other pups had mocked her for being wolfless. Collapsing against the cold stone wall, Freya let herself sob. The rejection played over and over in her mind. Wolfless. Powerless. Inadequate. She didn't know how long she sat there before she felt it, a presence, watching from the shadows. Her head snapped up. Yellow eyes gleamed in the darkness between the trees, reflecting the moonlight. A wolf, larger than any she'd ever seen, with fur that shimmered like liquid silver. Freya's breath caught. The creature padded closer, and despite her fear, she couldn't look away. There was something familiar in those eyes, something that made the broken mate bond pulse painfully in her chest. The silver wolf stopped just outside the crypt entrance, its massive form blocking the moonlight. It tilted its head, studying her with an intelligence that was distinctly unwolf-like. "Who are you?" she whispered. The wolf's lips pulled back, not in a snarl, but in what looked almost like frustration. It took another step closer, and Freya's hand moved of its own accord, reaching out. The moment her fingers brushed that silver fur, electricity shot through her. Images flashed through her mind. Brand's face, twisted in anguish. A shadowed figure chanting ancient words. A curse taking hold, bone and muscle reshaping, humanity stripped away. Freya gasped, snatching her hand back. Brand. The wolf, Brand lowered his massive head in what could only be a nod. What happened to you? But even as she asked, she knew. Someone had done this. Someone had cursed her alpha on the same night he'd rejected her. The coincidence was too perfect. Brand shifted closer, his body radiating heat in the cool night air. He pressed his muzzle against her palm, and through their damaged bond, she felt a flood of emotion. Regret, longing, desperation. And underneath it all, a hunger that made her skin flush despite everything. You wanted to protect me, she realized suddenly. The rejection, you did it to keep me safe from this. Another nod. His yellow eyes locked with hers, and in them she saw the truth he couldn't speak. He'd loved her all along. The rejection had been a lie, a sacrifice meant to spare her from being dragged into whatever curse had claimed him. Freya's fingers curled into his fur. You're an idiot, she whispered. Did you really think I'd just accept losing you? A low whine escaped him. We're going to fix this. Determination flooded through her, pushing aside the pain and humiliation. I don't care what it takes. We're going to break this curse, and then you're going to explain yourself properly. The silver wolf pressed closer, and despite his animal form, there was something unmistakably intimate in the gesture. His presence surrounded her, warm and solid, chasing away the chill of rejection. For the first time since the ceremony, Freya felt something other than despair. She felt purpose. For 3 days, Freya kept Brand's secret. She visited the crypt each night, bringing food and water, tending to him while the pack searched frantically for their missing alpha. During the day, she played the part of the rejected mate, ignored by most, pitied by few. But on the 4th night, everything changed. You cannot keep this hidden forever, child. Freya spun around to find Hulda Oakenshield standing at the crypt entrance, her ancient eyes knowing. The pack healer had always unnerved Freya. There was something otherworldly about the woman, something that suggested she knew far more than she should. I don't know what you... The silver wolf in your sanctuary? Hulda's lips curved into a slight smile. The one who carries your alpha scent and watches you with human longing? Please, girl. I may be old, but I'm not blind. Brand growled low, positioning himself between Freya and the healer. Peace, Alpha. Hulda raised her gnarled hands. I'm not your enemy, though I suspect Valder Grimfong might be. Who? Freya demanded. The immortal mage who cursed your mate. Hulda moved into the crypt, her staff tapping against the stone floor. He's been watching you, Freya. Watching and waiting for years. Waiting for what? For you to awaken. The healer's eyes glittered in the moonlight streaming through the broken ceiling. Tell me, child, what do you truly know about your parents' death? The question hit like a slap. They died in a rogue attack when I was 5. Everyone knows that. Everyone knows the lie they were told. Hulda settled onto a fallen stone, her ancient bones creaking. Your parents didn't die in any attack, Freya. They gave their lives performing a binding ritual, one meant to hide what you are. Freya's heart pounded. What I am. Moonborn. The word hung in the air, heavy with power. A wolf blessed by the moon goddess herself, capable of wielding lunar magic. There hasn't been a moonborn in 3 generations. Until you. That's impossible. I'm wolfless. You are bound. Hulda's voice sharpened. Your parents feared what would happen if the wrong people discovered your nature. So they locked your wolf away, hid your power so deep that even you forgot it existed. The healer's gaze shifted to Brand. Until now. Until he rejected you, thinking he could keep you safe from Valder's schemes. Brand's growl deepened. The mage has been orchestrating this for years, Hulda continued. The rejection was meant to awaken your power through pain. The curse on your alpha was meant to force your hand. Valder needs a moonborn's power for his own purposes, and he's willing to destroy everything you love to get it. Freya felt dizzy. How do I break the curse? You must unlock what your parents bound. Hulda stood, approaching slowly. But I warn you, child, once awakened, your power will draw every predator in the territory. Gunnar Iron Hand already circles our borders, waiting for weakness. Others will come. I don't care. Freya's hand found Brand's fur, fingers tangling in the silver strands. Tell me what to do. Hulda's expression softened. The ritual must be performed under the full moon, which rises tomorrow night. You will need blood, moonlight, and absolute trust between mates. Her knowing gaze moved between them. The barriers between you must fall completely, body, mind, and soul. Can you do that? Knowing your bond is damaged. Freya looked at Brand. Even in wolf form, she could see the desperate hope in his eyes. The broken mate bond throbbed between them, painful but persistent. Yes, she said firmly. Whatever it takes. The next night, Freya stood in the center of the crypt as moonlight poured through the broken ceiling. She'd spent the day memorizing Hulda's instructions, gathering the necessary herbs and components. Now, as midnight approached, her hands trembled with equal parts fear and anticipation. Brand paced nearby, his silver form agitated. Through their fractured bond, she felt his concern for her, for what the ritual might demand, for what would happen if it failed. We don't have a choice, Freya said softly. She began removing her clothes, the ritual requiring skin exposed to moonlight. Hulda said barriers must fall. All of them. Brand went still, yellow eyes tracking her movements as the fabric pooled at her feet. Standing naked in the moonlight, Freya felt vulnerable yet strangely powerful. The moon's attention pressed down on her like a physical weight. She knelt in the center of the silver circle she'd drawn with blessed salt, then picked up the ritual blade. Come here. Brand approached slowly. Even cursed, even trapped in wolf form, his presence made her pulse quicken. She could feel his hunger through the bond, not just for freedom, but for her. Your paw, she instructed. He extended it, and she made a careful cut across his pad. Dark blood welled up, and she caught it in a bronze bowl. Then, gritting her teeth, she sliced her own palm. Their blood mingled, and power crackled through the air. By blood and moonlight, Freya chanted, following Hulda's words, by bond and soul, I call to what was bound. I call to what was hidden. I call to the wolf within me. The moonlight intensified, focusing on her like a spotlight. Brand moved closer, pressing his bloodied paw against her wounded palm. The connection flared, and suddenly Freya wasn't just feeling his emotions, she was seeing his memories. Brand, younger, watching her from across the training grounds. The longing in his eyes as she laughed with other pack members, never noticing his attention. Brand, in his chambers, the mate bond snapping into place on her 18th birthday. The joy, quickly followed by terror as he realized what it meant. Brand, meeting with Hulda in secret, learning of the threats gathering around Freya. The agonizing decision to reject her, believing distance would keep her safe. Brand, confronting Valder, demanding the mage leave their territory. The curse taking hold before he could even fight back. And underneath all of it, desire. Raw, desperate, consuming desire that he'd buried for years. Freya gasped as the visions faded. You loved me even before the bond. Brand's wolf eyes met hers, and she felt his answer through their connection. Always. The word unlocked something inside her. Power surged upward from deep within, shattering the binding her parents had placed. Freya screamed as her wolf finally emerged, not gradually, not gently, but in an explosion of silver light and ancient magic. But she didn't shift. Instead, her hands began to glow with moonlight, and when she looked down, she saw silver markings spreading across her skin like living tattoos. I'm moonborn, she whispered in awe. Brand's form began to shimmer. The curse was breaking, responding to her awakened power and the strengthened bond between them. She watched as silver fur receded, as bone and muscle reshaped, as her alpha was finally restored. Brand gasped his first human breath in days, collapsing to his knees before her. He was gloriously naked, his bald head bowed, his powerful body marked with the same silver scars that now adorned her palm where they'd shared blood. "Freya," he rasped, his voice rough from disuse.
"I'm sorry."
"I'm so sorry." She silenced him with a kiss, pouring 4 years of longing and 3 days of anguish, and this moment of triumph into it. He responded with desperate hunger, pulling her against him as moonlight blazed around them. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Freya touched her forehead to his. "We're not done yet," she whispered. "Valdra's still out there. Gunnar is still circling. And I still need to learn what being moonborn means." Brand's hands tightened on her waist. "Then we face it together. As Alpha and Luna. As mates. As equals," she corrected, and felt his smile against her lips. "As equals," he agreed. Above them, the full moon shone down, and for the first time in her life, Freya felt it smile back. The war with Gunnar came sooner than expected. The rival Alpha attacked during the new moon, thinking Freya would be weakest. He was wrong. Moonborn power didn't follow normal rules. In darkness, Freya learned to channel the memory of moonlight, to pull lunar magic from the very essence of the night itself. She summoned wolf spirits from shadow and starlight, creatures that tore through Gunnar's forces like divine retribution. But the power demanded everything. As the battle raged, Freya felt herself burning from the inside out, her mortal body unable to contain the goddess's gift. She would have died if not for Brand. Her mate, her alpha, her equal. He refused to let her go. Through their bond, through sheer desperate love, he pulled her back from the brink. And in doing so, awakened his own latent moonborn abilities, inherited through bloodlines so ancient even Hulda had forgotten them. Together, they obliterated Gunnar's army. Together, they saved the pack. And when the moon rose again, full and bright and approving, they completed their mating ceremony before everyone who had witnessed Freya's rejection. This time, no one questioned her worth. The 3 months with Valdr were complicated. The immortal mage proved to be exactly as Hulda had described, darkly seductive, morally ambiguous, and dangerously knowledgeable. He taught Freya to control her power, to channel it without burning out. He taught her secrets the moon goddess had long forgotten. And when she returned home, transformed and confident and powerful, Brand was waiting. Their pack thrived under joint leadership. The wolfless girl who'd been rejected became a legend, the moonborn Luna who'd saved them all. But Freya's favorite title was the simplest one, Brand's mate. Because in the end, that was the only thing that had ever really mattered. The full moon rises over the northern pack, and beneath its silver light, 2 moonborn wolves run together through ancient forests. Their bond, once broken, now burns brighter than ever. And the moon goddess, watching from above, smiles at what her children have become.